Hey folks, welcome to the Do-It-Yourself Dad channel. Today is a momentous day in the channel. I cleaned up my workbench, and this is like the first time I've done that in I don't know how long. So you get to see it just like I do for the first time in probably a year. So if you're like me, you spend a lot of time in your garage. And if you're like me, your garage wasn't built for comfort in mind. It was built to store stuff. So we're taking some steps to make our garage a little bit more comfortable. If you've been around the channel at all, we've done a video here on how to insulate your garage door. I've got that link in the description below. And because we live in the California desert, we've got not one, but two air conditioning systems in the garage to pump air in here to keep it comfortable in the summertime. And if you look up above, to keep that cool air in, we've actually put radiant barrier, and we're gonna have a video on that coming up real soon as well. But right now, winter's just around the corner, so we've got a new toy to put in the garage. This will help keep us comfortable in the wintertime. And now, through the magic of video editing, we've unboxed our brand new garage heater. This is a NewAir hardwired electric garage heater. So this one has a lot of features over a normal space heater. For one, it is metal. It's meant to go outside. It's meant to go in your garage. It has these louvers, and what's nice about these louvers is they move independently of each other, so you can angle some down and some up, depending upon where you're planning on mounting this thing. On the back of it here, we're going to spin it around, there is a thermostat. So it's not just an on and off, there's actually a thermostat. So you can set how high, how low you want it to heat. And inside there, you'll notice there is a fan that's going to push air around. And a lot of space heaters, you just put on the floor and it just radiates heat out, but it isn't circulated around the room. So this will actually push heat around the room and keep your garage nice and warm in those cold months. So let's go ahead, let's get this thing installed, let's try it out, and we'll show you how well this guy works. Now this unit is set up to run on 220, and there's actually two different ways that you can hook this thing up. You can hardwire it in, or if you're fortunate enough to have a dryer line in your garage like we do, you can actually run it off of a dryer line. And in our case, we have a gas dryer, but we do have electric running into the garage to run a dryer, so we're going to use a dryer line instead. And when you go to your hardware store, you can usually find about a 6-foot line. If you go online, you can find a 10-foot line or even longer. And I've got a link to this one that I picked up in the description below. This is a 10-foot line. This will get it from the socket on the wall up to where I need it. So our first step is we're going to be removing the plate that goes right here, and you're going to see two holes. You're going to open up one of the holes and you're going to use one of these guys. This slips in there. You're going to run the line through it. You clamp this down, and that gives you a nice safe connection there, so the rubber on this isn't going to chafe itself on that hole that you opened up. So now with that in place and secure, the next thing we're going to do is run our wire through. Now if you're using a dryer line, the center one is your ground. You want to leave that terminal on there, and then your outside two are your hot wires. So you're going to run this through this plate. Be sure to do this before you wire anything up, otherwise you got to take it all back apart again. And you're going to run it on through. And then we're going to use regular wire nuts to wire into the power lines that are feeding the heater. And you want to make sure that connection is nice and secure, and you also want to make sure that there are no copper bits exposed on the outside to short out into the case. Okay, so now with the two of those secure, the only thing we have to deal with is the ground line. Now, this unit actually does not have a ground line, but we're going to ground it out to the case when we put this plate back on, just for safety's sake. So we can take out the extra slack here, work all the wires back in place. Then when we put everything back in, we're going to take this little piece right here, give it a little bit of a bend. And line up with that hole. And then when we put our screws back, we can screw right through there and ground out that ground into the case. Now with all that nice and tight and secure, now we want to tighten up this line here. Make sure that is nice and snug. You don't want this moving around and tugging and chafing through that cord later. And that's all there is to it, to wiring this thing up with a dryer cord so you can run it off your dryer socket. Now before you go and mount this thing on the wall or on the ceiling, let's plug it in and make sure it all works. So we've plugged the line into our socket in the garage, so now let's flip it on and make sure everything. So on the back there's the temperature control knob. Turn up the temperature control knob, you should hear a click. Now you should have nice warm air coming out the front. Make sure your louvers are open and not closed when you're testing it out. So after you've tested out the wiring, it's time to mount this thing up. And there are a couple different mounting options for it. We chose to go with this route where we have it mounted to a brace in the garage from above. There is also, if you wanted to mount it on something like this and hang it off the side, you could do that as well. It comes with both brackets. And I have a link for this heater down below from New Air, and then also for the cable that I used. You can either run it the way I did it, or you can hardwire it in. But now we're ready for a nice warm garage all winter long. So if this video helped you out at all, be sure to give it a great big thumbs up. Go down below and hit that subscribe button so I can show you all the other cool things that we're doing to the house. We'll be talking about that insulation and then also the air conditioning units coming up in new episodes. Thanks for watching.